Hello everyone, welcome to another video from the Bitwig from Zero series. And this one I want to talk about MIDI clips, the automation, audio, and MIDI. Maybe at some point I will do a video with these. I just don't use them, so it wouldn't be the best for me to go on and talk about them, but I'll point out a use I have for these later on. So I want to start with the clips, because in the clips we can change the time signature of that clip. We can, move the clip around. This is deciding where all of your information is going to be on your arranger and how it's going to be played back to you. You also set looping points. As we can see here on this hats clip, there's this dotted line here. So this is where the audio loops. If I were to grab it and pull it from the bottom, we'll see that I have this looping section. And if I pull from the top, it doesn't have that symbol, but that doesn't matter because I've already have the clip looping. So now when I go ahead and pull it from down here, we're going to get the same MIDI looping over and over again based on this section, which is going to be the same as the next section and this section. Obviously very helpful if you have, something just repeating over and over again. You can do this to audio clips. All the clips can do this. Really handy for drum loops or anything like that, because I could just come from the bottom here and we can see I don't even have looping activated, but I can grab from the bottom with this loop and drag it over like this, and it replaces my other clips that have the exact same information, and now it's just one loop clip. What's nice about this is that when you go and move MIDI around, it will actually move in all the looping clips. So if you put down a drum pattern and you decide you want to change it, it'll change all of the sections. Obviously, if you want to change this, you could use your knife tool and just cut, and this is no longer part of this looping clip, even though it has the same information. It's now entirely its own clip. We can mute clips specifically if we don't want to hear anything from them, or we can mute the track. But if, say, I don't want any of these hats here in the first part, I can just mute them all, and then I don't have to worry about them. The shuffle is just indicating whether or not your global shuffle over here, your groove, is being applied to this clip, and then the accent that it's going to have, so like the strength or the parameters of that shuffle. Down here, we get some options specifically related to notes. If I click on audio, we'll have a whole different set of options. So this is kind of the rest of the info thing, of the info window. So audio is always going to have the same top half, but then if you come here, it's going to have a little bit of different options towards the end. Or here, these are for fades. This is only for audio. And then we have audio events, which are different from like MIDI events or note events. So with us selecting a clip, we also see that we get clip properties up here. So this is where we can say, like, I want to make everything in this clip legato. I want to quantize everything in this clip. I want to transpose this clip. I want to do semitone transpositions on this clip. So you can grab this clip like so, and then do things like the Alt plus, which would probably move everything up by a semitone. And you can see it did do that. It had to make a new section because I'm in the drum sampler, but if I come here to the regular MIDI, it moves it by just that one semitone. We can scale, do any reversing, consolidate, which is basically like, if I have a long loop, I can come and consolidate this, turn it into one solid clip, and then if I want, split it up again. The reverse will reverse all the MIDI, kind of pretty handy on things like this with MIDI, because sometimes it's cool to reverse MIDI, depending on what you're doing. The scaling just lets you do for me, it's Shift D or Shift A, and it puts it up 200%. So it'll make all the notes twice as large, space them out over twice the distance. And yeah, so now the loop would be much slower versus. We can slice it to a multi-sample, which would be used in our sampler. And we can slice it to the drum machine, which would be used in our drum machine. Basically, it will just slice all of these sections and put them in a drum machine, but we already have them here. We already have them in a drum machine here. So if we use something like audio, we can use onsets and slice it to a drum machine, where it will then give you some options for the slicing. And when you select this, it'll basically put it in a drum machine with every transient or whatever the parameters you set in a different sampler in the drum machine. You could use Bitwig's famous bounce in place or the regular bounce. The bounce will make a new track with all your effects on or whatever parameters you set here. And the bounce in place will just take that clip and just bounce it in place. And it's going to be like, oh, you have missing plugins or whatever. If you do, that's why I suggested to get rid of anything that you have missing from your project, so you don't have to look at that annoying message every time. But here we can see that we have my hats bounced into audio and back. So one kind of annoying thing that I find about this is that this MIDI is now gone like forever. So what I like to do is, this is the only thing I use the launcher for, is I'll grab this and move it over and then maybe give it a name like build hats. And then now it has that name. So now if I do any bouncing in place, I just permanently have this MIDI that was used here set to the side, and I can put essentially as many MIDI clips as I want for that track. So it's just a nice little storage space that I like to use that. Like, I like to use that for that purpose. I don't like losing MIDI, and bouncing in place just adds another track. So that could also be annoying in its own way. You can also like preview your MIDI over here after you've saved it in case you want to check like exactly what it is. Maybe you'll use it in a different part of the song. Just don't forget to come here and click switch back to playback. Switch playback to arranger, so that way your track isn't just deactivated. One awesome thing is you can also save this to a clip library. So I can grab a clip and I can just drag it over to the side here, and it'll automatically set it up to be saved. So this saves clips, not per se audio files. So if you try to do this with audio files, it's going to save the clip that has the audio in it. It doesn't save the audio as a sample like you might think, which is a little annoying. But you can assign tags, change the built-in BPM of the creator. What's nice about doing it this way versus actually just exporting audio is that if you want to have the audio with all its effects, if I do this, I will actually get all of I'll get this drum machine, all the samplers, every effect I had on each individual sampler, anything I had ever changed right here in this device. The mixer itself and anything I do to the mixer will be unchanged. But I get to keep this get to keep everything that's incorporated in this clip, which would be all of the drum machine and automation data. So when saving this as a clip, I'm saving all of that. So if you want to save audio samples, for example, you can come over here to the clip section and you can preview everything fairly nice. So this is actually like a preset. This has serum and has things going on. If I were to grab this and slap it down in my drums group here, we're gonna get some plugins loaded and we come check it out. I've got a serum in here, and all my serum sets and everything I've done are all saved in this clip, and I can play it. Which is pretty wicked. You can even save entire groups of things in here. So for example, if I were to start a new project, so if I go to my clips here, this used to be a problem with the Bitwig demo where you could save projects technically. You can take an entire group and save it. So this here is indicating a group because there's these colored lines. This blue one indicates MIDI and the orange indicates any audio. I just have like a trigger sound, which is pretty ugly sounding, so I don't want to play it, but maybe I save some dubstep drums there. Those are saved. If I pull those out, those are just full in clip mode. I didn't have any audio on them because there's no effects on them or anything like that, but the drums are still here in a clip. They're named. And when you do it this way, it guarantees the audio is going to know exactly what tempo was exported in. Sometimes Bitwig can be weird about just audio files, even though they could be properly timed and have that information in the audio file. Bitwig might misread that or not read it at all. So I just dragged this in basically, and it brings in a whole group, and this group has 4 layers, and they all have things going on here that are like not too advanced, but the fact that it can remember all of this and then play it back to you in this browser window is pretty wicked, and it does it very fast after you're like, hey, what does this sound like? Now, there might be some optimization for Bitwig plugins or devices. Like if you have something all made only out of Bitwig stuff, it probably is going to work faster than having to recall a plugin. But I'm pretty sure when you save it in the clips that it does in fact do an audio sum of whatever you put into the browser. So that's what it's playing back when you're listening to it, and then when you throw it in, it puts down all the MIDI. But obviously to get that quick playback, it's going to want to put like a bounced version of whatever melody or MIDI you gave it. So that's about it for the clips themselves. Now let's talk about automation. Now this is going to be a very quick topic, but it directly relates to the clips. So you have automation. It's this thing below. If you click these 3 dotted lines or 3 lines, Now, when you open it up, it's always going to look like this. It's going to be mixer volume. You have this little favorite star, and add this or delete this. You can't just delete the starting automation track. So you can come in here and you can find things, you can pin things, you can say show my favorite things. So if I want to come in here and automate something, I can come in here and automate something. Now, if I want to automate something out of Bitwig, all I have to do is right click and do it that way. Even on third-party devices, you can see all of the parameters of a device here as so, and you can come and click and say, hey, I want to automate this, or you can see that this says mixer volume, and I'll come into this plugin and I'll like touch this second macro, and we can see it instantly changes to that macro. So now I can just come in and draw my automation. Very simple. And once I've made automation, that's now remembered. Here we are. But because I didn't favorite it, it's not there. So if I switch this to something else like the mix, then it will go ahead and put that down there. Something else I'm using, it's now become like a favorited sort of thing. So now it's there. If you don't want to see all the lanes at once, you can just remove the favorite section and come look at them individually if you wish. And then if you have more than one, you can just delete the automation entirely. Now, automation is binded to a clip unless stated otherwise, kind of, and it's always binded to a clip. So for example, these drums here, I'm automating the pitch. There's a button down here that says automation follows when clips are moved. So if I move this clip, the automation's coming with it. It wants to make sure that it's automating these exact sections of the clip. If I come into the MIDI editor and click clip, even in this section, and you press A instead of E or F, so I would be here, press A, here's automation. So I'm looking at this clip here I have selected. I can change it by selecting a different clip like so. But if I come here and select this clip, here we are, we can see what's going on. If we have any sort of like loop set or anything, we can turn on this free run mode so it's not like binded to the loop sort of. If we come and click this button, we can see any other automation that we would have here. And this is binded specifically to this clip. Now, if I were to click this bottom button here and remove that, I don't want the automation to follow, I can then move this clip and the automation doesn't care. It just stays exactly where it is. There's no fancy tools that you can get in Ableton with like grabbing MIDI quite the same way. I guess you can move it like that, which is kind of interesting, but then it doesn't snap anymore, or like what's up with that? So if I put down 2 points, I can click, move them, snap them. So in the top left corner here, you can see that we can actually see our position and our values. So we can grab multiple values and sum them to 0. And then if I wanted to make a pattern of sorts here and then copy that somewhere else, I can grab it with this tool, the time selection tool, do Command C, and then wherever I click, that's where it's going to put it again. So if I come and click down here in this one and the hats volume, it will give me it here. You can come and grab it sort of like this, though from what I can tell, it's really not, it's not snapping, or it is, but it's on a really tiny scale. And you could copy and paste it like that, or if you want to like move automation, just come and grab it and move it around. It's a shame it doesn't snap. You can always use this selection tool, the regular selection tool, hold Alt, and then use your arrows to slide things around if you really want them to snap. And if you want to get any sort of bendy curves, you just hold Alt and drag around, and you can always grab them and make them a lot larger than they currently are. If you want to get some more automation done, though, I'd recommend just use this screen, drag that screen up and use it a little more intensely.